Stranger Things is basically built out of scenes from dozens of classic movies. From a plot line where a monster stalks its victims in their nightmares to full-on shot-for-shot recreations of iconic moments. You wouldn't believe how much this show borrows from the greats, from vintage Hollywood to modern hits and even anime. And the craziest part? Most viewers never even noticed. In this video, I'm going to break down every single hidden reference across all seasons of Stranger Things. Just to be clear, I'm not talking about the obvious stuff like, look, there's a Jaws poster in the background, or the characters casually mentioning Michael Myers. Too easy. What you're about to see is the complete story behind all the hidden nods that show just how deeply Stranger Things draws from 70s and 80s pop culture, even in the smallest blink and you'll miss it scenes. This is 11Take and the ultimate history of Stranger Things. First, let's answer one important question. Where did Stranger Things even come from? If you want to skip straight to the movie references, you can jump to the timestamps. But honestly, I think it's important to start right here. Let's take a look at the show's creators, twin brothers Matt and Ross Duffer. As kids, they were absolutely obsessed with 1980s cinema. They'd wear out their VHS tapes rewatching Ghostbusters, The Terminator, E.T., and tons of other legendary movies. Those films, and the atmosphere they carried, had a huge impact on the brothers. They made the Duffers fall in love with filmmaking and left a clear mark on their creative style. Funny thing is, the brothers were born in 1984, so they didn't actually live through the 80s as teenagers. They fell for that era later, in the 90s, through their VCR and a stack of tapes featuring the greatest hits of that decade. In a way, Stranger Things is a recreation of their childhood emotions. Emotions shaped by the movies they grew up watching, not by real-life memories. That's why the show feels so authentic and nostalgic, yet at the same time feels like a reflection of that time rather than a literal snapshot of it. After making a few short films, the Duffers managed to sell their first feature script, Hidden, to Warner Brothers. They even got the chance to direct it themselves, but the studio lost confidence, pulled it from release, and quietly shelved it, even though critics were actually pretty kind to their debut. Naturally, the brothers worried about how that flop might affect their careers, but they kept going. They ended up working under M. Night Shyamalan on the TV show Wayward Pines, picked up some experience, and then started pitching their next idea, a show called Montauk, named after a small coastal town in New York. The Duffers loved Jaws, Steven Spielberg's masterpiece, and the real-life Montauk had a lot in common with Amity Island, the fictional beach town where that shark terrorized the locals. But that wasn't the only reason they picked Montauk. The place is also tied to one of America's most famous conspiracy theories, that there was a secret government base there while scientists allegedly experimented with psychic powers, time travel, mind control, and all kinds of wild stuff. So yeah, perfect setting for a creepy story. Later on, they moved the action to a fictional town called Hawkins, Indiana. But originally, they were pitching it as Montauk, and no one was interested. Studio execs didn't get it. Why make a show about kids if it's going to deal with such dark, violent themes, they'd ask.
And keep things PG in here, right?
Either make it a kid's adventure or focus on the adults investigating the mystery. So Montauk almost disappeared into oblivion, until the script landed in the hands of director Sean Levy. You might know him from Night at the Museum, Real Steel, or The Pink Panther. Basically, a guy who knows his way around family-friendly blockbusters. That's him in a quick cameo in Season 1. It was Sean Levy who helped get the Duffers script to Netflix, a platform that, at the time, was open to creative experiments. Nowadays, Netflix pumps out what feels like 37,000 shows a year, but back in the mid-2010s, the streaming service was still building its reputation. They were trying everything, bringing in big-name directors like David Fincher with House of Cards, but also giving chances to fresh voices. The goal was simple: grab as many different audiences as possible and dominate this brand new way of watching TV. To help the new show stand out, Netflix decided to cast a few actors who were famous back in the 80s and early 90s. Winona Ryder was chosen to play Joyce, the mother of the missing boy Will. You know her from Beetlejuice, Heathers, Edward Scissorhands, true icons of that era. The show's main villain, the cold-hearted scientist experimenting on a little girl with psychic powers, was played by Matthew Modine, aka Joker from Full Metal Jacket. Fun fact, Modine and Ryder had actually worked together before, in a music video for Roy Orbison, where they even played a romantic couple. Small world, huh? That's pretty much where the star list ends, at least for Season 1. The rest of the cast was either newcomers or familiar faces from smaller roles. For example, David Harbour had never really been a leading man before he became Jim Hopper. Of course, in later seasons, the cast would grow with bigger and bigger names. But for now, picture the date, July 15th, 2016. Netflix drops Stranger Things, all episodes at once, because, well, Netflix. And the show instantly becomes a phenomenon. Why did it blow up like that? We'll get to that part soon. But for now, let's dive into what everyone came here for. All the hidden references to the cult movies of the 1980s and beyond. The very first Easter egg in Stranger Things is hidden right in the opening sequence. And it's not just about the synthwave music that uses the legendary analog synths of that era. It's the logo itself. Look closely at the words Stranger Things, and now look at the cover of any Stephen King novel from the 80s. The placement of the words, the font, even the rhythm of how the title reads, it's almost identical. From the very first frames, the Duffer Brothers are subconsciously showing the audience exactly what inspired their show. At one point during the opening sequence, you can clearly see the letters ING appear on screen. All that's missing is a K, and you'd have the true title, King. In fact, not everyone on the production team even liked the name Stranger Things. They just couldn't come up with anything better. So, they settled on a harmless title that still carried a strong visual and phonetic echo of Stephen King. And if you look at the core story of the series, it's basically a child born of a creative union between two Stevens, King and Spielberg. Imagine a fan fiction where Elliot from E.T. doesn't find the little alien in the woods, but instead meets Charlie McGee from Firestarter, with psychic powers straight out of Carrie. Then a bunch of kids straight from the Goonies show up to help her escape a secret government agency, the Shop, that wants to exploit her abilities. Meanwhile, in the shadows lurks a bloodthirsty creature from another dimension, say, Pennywise feeding on children's fears. That's essentially Stranger Things, just with all the names changed. I won't go too deep into the plot since most of you probably know it. In short, in 1983, a boy named Will Byers goes missing in the small town of Hawkins, while his friends encounter a mysterious girl who escaped from a government lab, 11, or simply Elle. Together, they have to rescue their friend from a nightmarish parallel world known as the Upside Down, while staying one step ahead of the secret agents hunting them. Pay attention to the town's name, Hawkins. Recognize it? That's the name of one of Dutch's commandos in the original Predator. You think that's just a coincidence? Then remember the name of Dutch's friend whose remains he finds in the jungle.
Jim Hopper.
Too many coincidences, right? For the most part, Stranger Things is a reimagining of the classic 1980s Kids on Bikes adventure. Stories about curious, brave kids stumbling into dark mysteries and mortal danger. The clearest influence, of course, is Steven Spielberg's E.T. If you look at the entire first season, that's the film the Duffers borrow from the most. Even the show's opening scene mirrors E.T.'s first shot. The camera pans down from the starry sky and lands on an important object in the story. In Spielberg's film, the young characters were first introduced through their game of Dungeons & Dragons, the tabletop RPG that was taking the 80s by storm. Likewise, in Stranger Things, the boys' personalities are revealed through the same game. Each one's role matches his traits. Mike, the de facto leader, is the dungeon master and plays a paladin, symbolizing his drive to protect Eleven. Dustin, the talkative one, is clearly a bard. Lucas is the sharp-eyed ranger, always skeptical and cautious. Will is the cleric, with his deep connection to the supernatural. And the monster they battle, the Demogorgon, straight out of the D&D bestiary, the Prince of Demons. That term, by the way, actually predates Dungeons & Dragons. It goes back to Renaissance-era theology. The boys also call the parallel world the Vale of Shadows, a direct reference to the Forgotten Realms D&D setting, the same universe where the Baldur's Gate games take place. The bond between Stranger Things and D&D became so strong that some fans even believed the entire story was just the kids' tabletop campaign. Thankfully, the creators confirmed that's not true. Otherwise, it would have been the worst "it was all a dream" twist ever. Back to E.T. The parallels are everywhere. The scene where Mike finds Eleven in the woods as his flashlight catches her face, the montage where they try to disguise her to go out in public, all straight out of E.T. And honestly, the wig and dress suit Elle better than poor E.T. ever did.
Wow, she looks pretty.
Even the quick shot of Will running toward the shed echoes E.T., which itself was a nod to Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Just like Elliot, Mike pretends to be sick to stay home with his strange guest, shows her his toys, and watches as she becomes fascinated with the TV. It's practically a remake. The only difference, Elliot didn't fall in love with E.T. like Mike does with Elle. Though maybe if he had, E.T. would have actually won Best Picture at the Oscars. We know how the Academy feels about cross-species romance. The parallels continue. The bike chase scene, the government agents, the use of supernatural powers at a critical moment. And while the first season may feel like a remake of E.T., there are plenty of other film homages packed in. The Duffers have often said their favorite movie of all time is Spielberg's Jaws. That's where the typewriter reference comes from. The Hawkins police badge looks a lot like the Amity Island logo, and Hopper's patrol car is nearly identical to Chief Brody's. And of course, the Demogorgon reacts to the smell of blood just like the shark reacts to the scent of prey, especially during its attack on poor Barb. Speaking of Barb, her character is a direct nod to another Spielberg-produced film, The Goonies, Richard Donner's classic kids' adventure. It's the gold standard of the bikes and mystery genre, and its DNA runs through every frame of Stranger Things. Brave teens rushing headfirst into danger, cracking jokes even when they're terrified. The Duffers channel that exact same energy.
Mike! I found the chocolate bunny! And they got chocolate eruption!
Barb herself, with her short hair and oversized glasses, is modeled after Steph from The Goonies. Even her nickname is a shortened version, just like Steph's. The only difference? Steph had a much happier ending.
Your looks are kind of pretty. When your face doesn't screw it up.
In one scene, Joyce Byers, Winona Ryder's character, buys movie tickets for Poltergeist, directed by Tobe Hooper and produced by Spielberg.
Ta-da! Poltergeist.
The irony is perfect. That movie is about parents trying to save their child trapped in a ghostly parallel dimension. The exact same thing Joyce ends up doing. Although in tone, the Byers family story mirrors the Freelings from Poltergeist. The Wheelers are even closer. 2 parents, 3 kids, a teenage daughter, a 12-year-old son, and a little blonde girl, who, in Poltergeist, is the one who gets pulled into the other side. Joyce's obsession also mirrors Close Encounters of the Third Kind, where Richard Dreyfuss's character receives mysterious signals and starts building strange sculptures while everyone around him thinks he's lost his mind. Until, of course, he turns out to be right. We'll come back to Close Encounters later when we talk about future seasons. For now, let's switch from Spielberg to the other Stephen, King, the man who practically invented the modern kids with powers story. His first novel, Carrie, was about a telekinetic girl, bullying, and the violence it breeds. Eleven's powers clearly echo Carrie's. The girl on the run from shadowy agents story, though, comes from Firestarter, especially the 1984 movie version. A young girl with psychic powers escapes from men in suits who want to use her abilities for their own gain. Sound familiar? Even Eleven's origin.
This lady, Terry Ives, sounds like a real nut to me. Her kid was taken for LSD mind control experiments?
The government experiments that gave her powers come straight from Firestarter. Charlie's parents took part in an experiment themselves, gained strange abilities, and passed them on to their daughter. In the movie, Charlie's father's nose would bleed whenever he used his powers, a detail the Duffers clearly borrowed for Elle. It's not just a reference, it's a cinematic shorthand for the audience to instantly recognize when she's using her abilities. The lab experiments, the resentment toward her captors, all of it ties back to that story. But there's another unexpected source of inspiration, anime. Specifically, the legendary Akira, another tale about psychic children experimented on by a secret military project, and Elfen Lied, which even opens with a bloody escape sequence from a lab. Turns out, the Duffers didn't just draw from Hollywood's 70s and 80s classics. The kids' prison break scene even has the energy of The Breakfast Club, only here, detention comes with monsters. There's even a scene that directly nods to the horror game Until Dawn by Supermassive Games. And the pitch-black realm where Eleven's mind travels in the sensory deprivation tank looks almost identical to the eerie void from Under the Skin, starring Scarlett Johansson. Hardcore sci-fi fans have also noticed similarities to Doctor Who, specifically the Fifth Doctor's era, which had an episode featuring a dark, minimalist dimension with glowing objects. Though visually, the resemblance to Under the Skin is stronger. The sensory tank setup itself, floating in water with electrodes attached, is lifted straight from the 1980 sci-fi film Altered States, where William Hurt's character uses the same method to project his consciousness back to the dawn of time. Back to Stephen King again. His stories are full of kids facing monsters, literal or metaphorical. The clearest parallel is, of course, It, the monumental novel about children confronting cosmic evil. The spirit of the Losers Club lives on in Hawkins. An ancient, brutal creature preys on fear while bullies wield knives in the daylight.
We're carving names.
And in the finale, Lucas hits the Demogorgon with a slingshot and thinks he's actually heard it. In It, the kids really did beat the monster clown with a slingshot. And when Eleven pins the Demogorgon against the wall, just listen to what Will and Dustin are arguing about.
I'll take your X-Men 134!
In that exact comic issue, telepath Jean Grey unleashes her Phoenix powers and pins an enemy to the wall, exactly like Elle does. King also wrote The Body, later adapted into the classic film Stand By Me. The setting may be the 1950s, but its tone and its mix of youthful adventure and tragedy fit perfectly with Stranger Things' 1980s aesthetic. 4 boys set out to find a dead body, clash with bullies, and discover the weight of growing up. The shot of the kids walking down the railroad tracks through an autumn forest is a direct visual quote from Stand By Me, a motif reused multiple times in the show. Episode 4 is even titled The Body, the same as King's novella. We'll come back to the King of Horror later, but for now let's move on. Sometimes Stranger Things tips its hat to A Nightmare on Elm Street. The Demogorgon breaking through the wall mirrors Freddy Krueger bursting through Nancy's bedroom. The plan to lure the monster out and set it on fire recalls the movie's fiery final battle. But Stranger Things doesn't just borrow from horror and sci-fi, it pulls from fantasy too. The kids are clearly fans of J.R.R. Tolkien, constantly referencing The Hobbit. Yes, not The Lord of the Rings, because all the referenced elements are spelled out far more vividly in Bilbo Baggins' journey to the Lonely Mountain and back. They even nicknamed one of Hawkins' dark roads Mirkwood, after the forest where Bilbo fought the giant spiders. And the password to get into Castle Byers?
Radagast?
It's a little stick insect.
All right, that character was mentioned out briefly in both The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. But this reference is clearly to the riddle game with Gollum in his cave.
It's like riddles in the dark.
Lucas gearing up for battle is a parody of Arnold Schwarzenegger's iconic arming up montage from Commando. When 11 points to Will's photo, it's a visual callback to Witness, Peter Weir's 1985 thriller where a young Amish boy silently identifies a murder in a nearly identical shot. As you can see, Stranger Things is practically stitched together from dozens of ideas and visual references to other beloved films. It hypnotizes the viewer with familiar imagery, story beats, and emotional cues, triggering the strongest kind of nostalgia, the feeling that you're watching the same movies you fell in love with as a kid.
Liked it?
Yeah. Well, I just wish it had a little more originality, that's all.
And while Season 1 built its foundation on E.T. and Firestarter, Season 2 would head in a completely different direction. Because so far, I haven't even mentioned Alien. When people ask the Duffer Brothers about their favorite movies, they always highlight the first 2 films in the Alien series, Ridley Scott's Alien and James Cameron's Aliens. Though honestly, it's hard to find a movie the Duffers aren't obsessed with.
Gremlins is, first of all, one of our favorite films growing up, and it was also a big reference, particularly in Season 2 of the show.
Ghostbusters is one of our favorite films. Stand By Me is one of our favorite films. We saw it when we were really young. We're big Indiana Jones fans. We're big fans of Temple of Doom.
The first season of Stranger Things is packed with references to this franchise. The opening scene, with a scientist running down a hallway and frantically calling for the elevator, directly mirrors a moment from Aliens. One of the cops is even named O'Bannon, a clear nod to Dan O'Bannon, the screenwriter of the original Alien who created the legendary xenomorph.
I just got off the line with O'Bannon. He said that he needs to see you at the station in some emergency.
What the hell are you talking about? I don't work with O'Bannon.
When Hopper and Joyce venture into the Upside Down, the show recreates the eerie landing of the Nostromo crew on LV-426. You can even spot egg-like shapes with something resembling facehuggers inside. The Demogorgon behaves exactly like a xenomorph and evolves accordingly in the second season. At first, there's only one monster, just like in Scott's film, but in the sequel, the series moves into James Cameron territory. Now there are many of them, acting like an insect hive with a shared consciousness, and sometimes they act more like dogs, but that's a reference we'll get to later. For now, let's stick with aliens. To underline their source of inspiration, the Duffer Brothers added one more clever Easter egg through casting. The role of Dr. Owens, who replaces Matthew Modine's sinister Papa, went to Paul Reiser. Fun fact, Modine and Reiser had already worked together in the movie Bye Bye Love.
How long do you give him this time?
6 months.
A year. I think they're gonna make it.
And what's Paul Reiser's most famous role among sci-fi fans? Of course, Carter Burke in Aliens, the sleazy corporate guy from Weyland-Yutani. So Aliens sits right at the center of Stranger Things Season 2, not only through the creatures, but also through one of the most recognizable faces from Cameron's cult classic. Just compare how Burke shuts off the monitor, leaving Ripley in danger, with how Dr. Owens does the same kind of move here. The only difference is that this version of Reiser's character is actually a decent human being. But once again, the staff under his supervision ends up facing total annihilation while the survivors watch helplessly from the control room.
We're all in strung out shape. But stay frosty.
Even this iconic line got another life in Stranger Things.
All right, stay frosty, boys.
The entire sequence of soldiers being wiped out in the tunnels feels almost like a remake of that unforgettable massacre from Aliens.
Let's rock!
Besides Aliens, another major influence on Season 2 was The Exorcist, William Friedkin's horror classic that terrified audiences in the 70s. It inspired the storyline about Will's possession. Poor kid just can't catch a break. The hospital scenes, the medical test, the baffled doctors, all of that comes straight out of The Exorcist. Will slowly loses control, becomes a vessel for evil, and eventually goes through his own kind of exorcism. But of course, you didn't think the Duffers would stop at just two big influences, right? Another nostalgic casting gem comes from Sean Astin, best known to modern audiences as Samwise Gamgee from The Lord of the Rings. But back in the 80s, he starred in The Goonies, the ultimate kids-on-bikes treasure hunt movie.
What's at the X? Pirate treasure?
Bob?
Here, his character Bob once again deciphers maps and helps find hidden locations, and the tunnel scenes under Hawkins directly reference The Goonies. Originally, Bob was supposed to die much earlier, around episode 3, but everyone loved working with Sean so much that they kept him around longer. Besides, having a childhood movie star on set was a thrill for the whole crew. Still, Bob couldn't escape his fate. His death scene hit audiences hard, marking the show's first real emotional farewell. Though for Sean Astin, dying heroically on screen is kind of a tradition. Here he rushes in to save his friends in the series The Strain, but ends up bitten by a vampire and infected with the virus. And in 24, he dies while trying to drain poison gas from a CTU office. Turns out Sean Bean isn't the only Sean with a habit of dying and everything. When Bob dresses up as Dracula for the Halloween dance with Joyce, that's another wink. Winona Ryder played Mina in Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula, the woman the vampire falls in love with. In the power station sequence, where Bob tries to restore electricity, you can spot nods to another Duffer Brothers favorite, Jurassic Park. Remember Laura Dern's scene where she runs through dark corridors with a flashlight? Bob faces the same dread, hunted by demodogs instead of raptors. In fact, the dogs from the Upside Down behave just like Spielberg's dinosaurs, hunting in coordinated packs.
3 o'clock! 3 o'clock!
Clever girl.
You can even hear their growls echoing in the distance. But there's a reason the new monsters are called demodogs. Beyond the prehistoric influences, they also borrow traits from another beast, Cujo, Stephen King's rabid St. Bernard.
I've been waiting to meet this King Steve everybody's been telling me so much about.
No, not that King Steve. The novel came out in 1981, and by 1983, the year of season 1, the movie adaptation was already famous. In one scene, the cop that Hopper knocks out is actually reading Cujo, another hidden nod. Joyce drives a 1976 Ford Pinto, the exact same model where the mother and son hid from the rabid dog in King's story. The Demodogs behave just like Cujo, wild, relentless, and terrifyingly aggressive. And speaking of King, the railroad scenes once again evoke Stand By Me. The kids walking along the tracks look straight out of that film. In fact, this moment fuses Stand By Me with Jaws. The characters literally lure the monster with raw meat, just like Brody did with the shark. Originally, the Duffers planned on an even bigger King reference. At first, they saw Stranger Things as a limited miniseries and weren't sure it would get renewed. When Netflix asked for season 2, their first idea was to pull an It, tell the story of the kids all grown up, returning to Hawkins years later to face the Demogorgon again, just like the Losers Club facing Pennywise. But ditching the beloved young cast would have been insane, so instead they simply moved the story forward 1 year, to 1984. And what movie ruled the box office that year? Ghostbusters, of course. So the kids dress up in full Ghostbusters gear for Halloween and, naturally, argue over who has to be Winston.
Then you be Winston. I can't.
Why not?
Because you're not black.
Their ghost traps even get repurposed to carry a baby Demodog, poor D'Artagnan, or Dart, Dustin's pet monster. On first viewing, you really think he might be redeemable. You hope he's more E.T. than Cujo, but no. Turns out Dart isn't named after D'Artagnan or the candy bar Three Musketeers, but after Darth Vader. That's because Season 2 also draws parallels to another classic 80s movie, Gremlins, directed by Joe Dante and produced, once again, by Steven Spielberg. Dustin raising Dart mirrors Billy caring for Gizmo. Both creatures hate light and both eventually turn dangerous. The image of the kid's teacher, Mr. Clark, also came from that movie. And his last name is a direct nod to the legendary sci-fi writer Arthur C. Clarke. He's that wholesome mentor figure, always ready to explain complex ideas, like how to reach the upside down. His parallel dimension explanation borrows directly from the horror sci-fi Event Horizon.
You create a doorway.
And it's not just the visuals. The sound design is full of nostalgia too. When Dart runs away, listen carefully. The background score is a reworked version of the Gremlins theme. Just a few notes, and you're instantly hit with that familiar childhood feeling. Told you, pure hypnosis. The entire Stranger Things soundtrack is soaked in 80s vibes. The Clash, Bon Jovi, Joy Division, Metallica, The Police. Just a couple of chords from any of these bands and you're back in that decade. The instrumental score, meanwhile, is clearly inspired by horror master John Carpenter. If you didn't know, Carpenter not only directed classics like Halloween, but also composed their soundtracks himself. Remember that haunting synth melody from Halloween? That's him. The band Survive built Stranger Things' synthwave score around his sound. And sometimes the show even uses Carpenter's actual music, like in the episode about Eleven's sister, which features a track from Escape from New York. Why just be inspired when you can use the real deal? Speaking of that episode, so far, it's still the lowest rated one in the entire series. I honestly can't imagine how you could anger an audience this much, but the show managed to do it. I'll explain how when we get to Season 5. It's the one where Eleven meets another girl with powers and learns to control her own. It's an important episode for her character, but slow-paced and disconnected from the rest of the gang, so it frustrated a lot of viewers. But forget the pacing. What matters is the references. That whole storyline is packed with Star Wars parallels. Earlier seasons constantly dropped smaller nods, Mike's Millennium Falcon toy, the characters quoting Lando Calrissian, and so on. But in Season 2, we get the most direct homage yet. The Duffers themselves said Eleven's trip to Chicago to meet her sister was inspired by Luke Skywalker's training on Dagobah. If, instead of Yoda, he'd met Darth Vader teaching him how to choke people with the Force. Even the train car scene practically begs for an X-Wing stuck in the swamp. It's the most obvious Star Wars moment in the entire show.
Sometimes I amaze even myself.
Sometimes I impress even myself.
Throughout the season, Eleven sees herself as a monster, especially while watching Frankenstein on TV. Nice parenting there, Hopper. Her confrontation with her cruel sister helps her realize what truly matters. She learns how to connect with people through television, just like Daryl Hannah's mermaid character in Splash with Tom Hanks, and the shot of Eleven against the white TV static once again brings us back to Poltergeist, where Ghost communicated with a little girl through the screen. Later, she begs to go trick-or-treating dressed as a ghost, a direct callback to E.T., where Elliot disguised the alien the same way. The TV show keeps reimagining what Eleven truly represents.
Oh, Jesus.
Ghost.
Yeah, I see that.
And speaking of E.T., remember his favorite candy? The same Reese's Pieces that Will now obsesses over.
Life or death situation, what would you pick?
I guess, Reese's Pieces?
Good call.
He's taken on his mother's fixation from season 1 and starts channeling the hero from Close Encounters of the Third Kind with his prophetic drawings. This shot with the glowing doorway, it's almost a frame-by-frame recreation of Spielberg's film. Among the many Halloween references, pay attention to Steve and Nancy's costumes. And let's talk about another massive pop culture icon of the time, Tom Cruise. By 1984, Top Gun and The Color of Money hadn't come out yet, but Risky Business had already made Cruise a star. You know, the one where he dances in his underwear at home? Nancy's a huge fan. Steven even teases her about it, and later he performs a musical number in full Risky Business spirit.
No, Carol thinks I actually kind of look like him. What do you think? Just take those old records off the shelf.
In season 1, angry Steve graffitied insults about Nancy on a movie theater marquee showing Cruise's next film, All the Right Moves. And now, in season 2, they wear Risky Business costumes for Halloween. Clearly, Cruise still holds a special place in Nancy's heart.
Just take those old records off the shelf.
The season also adds younger cast members, Sadie Sink as Max and Dacre Montgomery as her stepbrother Billy. Billy's introduction is straight out of an 80s teen movie called 3 O'Clock High. Max's nickname, Mad Max, of course, references Mel Gibson's iconic post-apocalyptic hero. The girl's clearly a fan of The Wasteland, just like the Duffers themselves.
We're big Mad Max fans.
One day, we might actually find a movie they don't worship. Billy's reckless driving echoes the opening of the first Mad Max film, with the Knight Rider tearing down the highway, and also Death Race 2000, where drivers literally scored points for road kills.
I guess you won't care if I hit him then, huh? I get bonus points, I get them all in one go?
Perfect hit. Too bad the guy was only 38. Just 2 years older, he'd have been worth 3 times the points.
Later in the season, the kids fortify their school bus exactly like Max's crew in The Road Warrior. Even the arcade game where Max sets her record, Dig Dug, ties in thematically. The game's all about digging underground, just like the tunnels in the show. And now, let's talk about the main villain. From the Upside Down comes the Mind Flayer, far more powerful than the Season 1 Demogorgon. The creature's name, of course, comes from Dungeons & Dragons, the Illithids, squid-headed monsters from the Forgotten Realms universe, the same world as Baldur's Gate 3. By the end, the heroes win and even have a classic 80s movie ending, a school dance. But the Mind Flayer is still there, watching. Just like the lyrics of the Police song playing at the dance, every breath you take, I'll be watching you. In summer 1985, he'll make another attempt to break through, and the Duffers will flood the screen with even more references, drawing from several new sources. Although, to be honest, one legendary franchise had been hiding in plain sight since Season 1. But it's in Season 3 that it becomes impossible to ignore. Jim Hopper is Indiana Jones. The Duffer Brothers have repeatedly professed their love for the Indiana Jones series in countless interviews, which is pretty normal for die-hard fans of 1980s pop culture. But what's more unusual is which film in the franchise they call their favorite. For the Duffers, it's Temple of Doom, often considered the most divisive entry among fans. Personally, I'm with them. It's fantastic. The one set in India, with the Kali cult and all the heart-ripping. No wonder most of the Indiana Jones references in Stranger Things draw specifically from Temple of Doom. The Duffers couldn't possibly ignore one of their favorite franchises, so they built their own version of Indy right into the show's core, Jim Hopper himself. Think about it. The two are strikingly similar in personality. On one hand, bravery and a genuine desire to help others. On the other, stubbornness, grumpiness, and a bit of an ego. Both tend to raise their voices, even at friends, let alone enemies, and both prefer solving problems with their fists. Hopper, like Indy, gets punched in the face more often than is reasonable. Although, up until Season 3, the perpetually bruised face title mostly belonged to Steve, who couldn't get through a single fight unscathed.
Dude,
And Hopper's outfit? It even includes the signature hat, which, just like Indy, he refuses to leave behind no matter the danger. In Season 1, direct Indiana Jones nods were subtle. The kids' rescue scene in the bus echoes Indy's off-screen mind battle in the Maharaja's palace.
All right, let's go.
Barb's corpse, with a snake crawling out of her mouth, also feels like something straight out of Raiders of the Lost Ark. In Season 2, the homage has become more obvious. For example, the scene of Jonathan and Nancy sitting in separate rooms perfectly mirrors Indy and Willie's heated argument from Temple of Doom.
Internal activities.
I'm a conceited ape?
Afraid.
Trust issues.
Max's driving scene, using a wooden block to reach the pedals, is a direct nod to Short Round doing the same thing. Funny enough, Sadie Sink herself could easily reach the pedals without any props, but the Duffer Brothers were determined to include that Short Round reference. By Season 3, Hopper takes it to the next level. He finally gets properly beaten up by his enemies, and, like many Harrison Ford heroes, he shoots first.
I bet you have.
Don't let the Magnum PI style outfit fool you. Hopper is full-on Indiana Jones. Just one who talks like Chief Brody from Jaws.
I can do anything. I'm the chief of police.
I can do anything I want. I'm the chief of police.
And who's giving him those punches this time?
Who is he?
It's Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Right. One of the recurring references of Season 3 is the Terminator, embodied by one of the main villains. Actor Andrei Evchenko perfectly channels the robotic menace of James Cameron's Cyborg, following his victims with emotionless precision, riding a motorcycle, and seeming one scrape away from revealing a metal skeleton underneath. In his fight scenes with Hopper, his character, named Grigorgi, once again echoes Indy. Harrison Ford's heroes were always battling towering brutes, taking a beating, and then finishing them off in spectacularly violent ways. Be it a plane propeller or a rock crusher, and for Hopper, it's a machine tearing open the gate to the Upside Down.
See you in hell!
Where did the Terminator come from? The answer lies in the era. Season 3 takes place in 1985, right at the peak of the Cold War. Tensions between the US and the Soviet Union were boiling, and pop culture reflected it everywhere. That same year, Rocky Balboa fought Ivan Drago in Moscow, and just a year earlier, 1984 gave us Red Dawn, a cult film directed by John Milius where American teens fight off a Soviet invasion. The US-USSR rivalry was one of the main narrative backbones of 1980s pop culture, so Stranger Things couldn't ignore it. As usual, each season draws from a few core inspirations, and for Season 3, Red Dawn is front and center. The kids must expose the Soviet Army's secret plan to open a portal to the Upside Down and harness its power for themselves. And in a perfect bit of irony, the communists build their base inside. What else? A shopping mall, the very symbol of capitalist America. They really know how to distract the enemy.
Capitalism.
The opening scene with Soviet scientists directly mirrors Raiders of the Lost Ark, where the Ark's power obliterates anyone foolish enough to tamper with it. And one more nod, before we let Indy rest for now, when Steve and newcomer Robin are tied up in a Soviet lab, the setup parodies The Last Crusade. The entire kids infiltrating a secret base concept also recalls another 1980s classic, The Manhattan Project from 1986, where teens sneak into a government facility disguised as a medical lab to build a nuclear bomb for a science fair. Curious bunch. The plutonium in that film looks suspiciously similar to the substance used to power the gate in Stranger Things. Though, personally, I think it looks even more like the BX gas from Michael Bay's The Rock. But the heroes in Hawkins have more to fight than just evil communists. There's also the Mind Flayer, now reborn in gruesome, fleshy form. The second major influence on Season 3 isn't a single movie, but an entire genre: body horror. Scary movies focused on grotesque transformations of the human body, the loss of control, and the creation of monstrous abominations. The genre was defined by David Cronenberg through films like Videodrome, The Fly, Shivers, and especially Scanners. That last one is key here. It's about telepathic humans created through government experiments, waging psychic war with each other. Fun fact, Scanners actually came out before Firestarter and was the first to introduce the now iconic nosebleed during psychic use. When the Duffers were looking for the perfect sound effect for exploding flesh, they couldn't find anything better than the original Scanners scene. And no, I won't show it here. It's way too graphic. The other big cinematic inspiration for the Season 3 monster is the Blob, both the 1958 original and the 1988 remake by Chuck Russell. The way the Mind Flayer's flesh moves and attacks people with tentacles is nearly identical. Just compare these two moments. Before victims are fully absorbed into the creature, they behave strangely, hinting at another horror classic, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and of course, The Thing. In Season 3, Stranger Things doubles down on John Carpenter references. Let's start with The Thing, an alien organism that imitates humans, distorts their bodies, and fuses them into grotesque monstrosities. That's exactly the Mind Flayer. And how did they detect the thing? Through heat, which is why Billy gets locked in a sauna, a direct parallel. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Max's eerie visions of her brother in the mist strongly resemble Carpenter's The Fog, where ghostly figures emerge from thick haze. Later, when Billy attacks the heroes with his car, it's an homage to another Carpenter film, Christine. From a distance, you don't see Billy inside. You only hear the revving engine, as if the jealous car itself were hunting its victims.
Hey, you ain't mad, are you?
And what else does that scene look like? The heroes are in a mall parking lot. A car speeds toward them, and they narrowly escape. It's straight out of Back to the Future, which, conveniently, also came out in 1985 and is playing in a theater inside the mall.
That mom was trying to bang her son.
The movie is referenced elsewhere too. The clock in Mrs. Driscoll's house, the possessed old lady, and Jonathan tripping over his pants at the start of the season both nod to it. And yes, Back to the Future was produced by, you guessed it, Steven Spielberg. Every season of Stranger Things might as well carry the tagline, More Spielberg. The story takes place around the 4th of July, just like Jaws. Once again, the big holiday is threatened by a monster terrorizing a small town, while the clueless mayor ignores the danger, even taking bribes from Soviet agents building their mall right under his nose. Totally not suspicious. The Duffers had wanted to include a sleazy, irresponsible mayor for a while but couldn't fit him into earlier plots. Now his time has come, and he's played by none other than Cary Elwes, another beloved face from 80s and 90s classics, best known for The Princess Bride. Another perfect nostalgic casting choice. Moving on, the Duffers also recreate a scene from Close Encounters of the Third Kind, the one with toys coming to life. Here, it's just a prank, no aliens, but the music playing is from cult B-movie Killer Clowns from Outer Space. No Spielberg this time, but still pure 80s weirdness. During Steve's interrogation, a Soviet soldier drops this line.
I like this guy.
It's the same phrase used in The Goonies under similar circumstances.
I'm beginning to like this kid, Ma.
The climactic battle brings even more references, this time to Jurassic Park. The fleshy Mind Flayer moves like a T-Rex, and the heroes react to it just like Dr. Grant seeing dinosaurs for the first time. The scenes of hiding behind cars from the monster also echo Jurassic Park's kitchen raptor sequence, the kids crouching and holding their breath as tentacles slither past. The creature's design even hints at another Spielberg-produced movie, Super 8. That film, about a group of kids making home movies in the late 70s and stumbling upon a mysterious creature, came out in 2011 and reignited pop culture's love for the era, paving the way for Stranger Things itself. The show itself had already nodded to it earlier, with the kids hiding from a monster inside a bus. After returning from the ghostly realm, the little girl from Poltergeist developed a sense for supernatural beings and could warn her family when they were coming back.
They're back.
Will can now sense upside-down activity before it happens.
He's back.
Okay, let's give Spielberg a rest. Surprisingly, there aren't that many Stephen King references this time. I'll skip the obvious stuff, like the yellow raincoat that looks like Georgie's from It. But these hospital scenes, they're pure The Shining. Jonathan's limp mirrors Jack Nicholson's final stagger. And of course, there's the killer breaking down a door, greeting his victims.
Wendy, I'm home.
Hi there.
By the way, that's Jake Busey, not as iconic as Winona Ryder or Paul Reiser, but being the son of character actor legend Gary Busey gives his cameo serious nostalgic weight. He's been in Starship Troopers, The Frighteners, and even replaced Rutger Hauer in The Hitcher 2. The hospital interior, both inside and out, is straight out of Halloween 2, where Jamie Lee Curtis runs from Michael Myers through the very same kind of dimly lit corridors. Speaking of Winona Ryder, Season 3 slips in more nods to her filmography. One is pretty straightforward. When Joyce visits Mr. Clark to ask about electromagnetic fields, look closely at his miniature town model. You can spot Beetlejuice's grave. In Tim Burton's Beetlejuice, where Ryder played Lydia, that same model town also had a tiny grave in its attic. Another is trickier. In the beginning of one scene, we hear a song by Weird Al Yankovic. As you probably know, Weird Al is famous for his parodies, and this one's a spoof of the Nax My Sharona, which featured in Reality Bites, starring Winona Ryder. And that film also starred Ethan Hawke, the father of Maya Hawke, who plays Robin. Talk about layers of meta. Let's switch to something simpler. A few more audio Easter eggs. When Hopper and Joyce are driving the Soviet scientist Alexei and the sheriff steals a random guy's car, the soundtrack plays the theme from Midnight Run, the 1988 comedy where Robert De Niro escorts a criminal across the country and also keeps stealing cars. The Hopper-Alexei duo is clearly modeled after that movie's odd couple dynamic.
I can't keep you cuffed on a commercial flight, and I gotta check my gun with my luggage, but you with me once, and I'm gonna break your neck.
Later, when Billy shows up at the pool, the music playing is the same track used in Fast Times at Ridgemont High during that famous pool scene with Phoebe Cates. The same Phoebe Cates Dustin compares his girlfriend to.
Susie does, she's a genius.
Is she cute?
Think Phoebe Cates, only hotter.
And a bit of foreshadowing. In Season 4, Steve will even reference that exact timestamp of that scene while teasing Robin about her movie preferences.
You know who pauses Fast Times at 53 minutes 5 seconds? People who like boobies,
Ew,
Robin.
gross.
Boobies.
Don't say.
Now, back to visual nods. Let's talk Evil Dead. The poster for Sam Raimi's cult horror has been hanging in Jonathan's room since Season 1, but direct references were rare. Aside from Hopper's cabin, of course. You could definitely find zombie Henrietta and the cursed book down in that basement. There was also that moment with the vine wrapping around Hopper's body, definitely reminiscent of the aggressive plant from Sam Raimi's film. Only this time, things were handled a bit more modestly. But the first real Evil Dead homage in Season 3 comes from Mrs. Driscoll's outstretched hand, a near-perfect recreation of the original film's poster. Later, when the Mind Flayer attacks Hopper's cabin, the parallels to Raimi's chaos become unmistakable. Honestly, it's a missed opportunity that one of the tentacles didn't flip the heroes the bird before retreating. What haven't we covered yet? Oh, right, Die Hard. So far, Stranger Things hadn't paid much attention to that classic, but it was bound to happen. It starts with those air duct shots. Tell me Dustin doesn't look exactly like John McClane.
Come out to the coast, we'll get together, have a few laughs.
Touch my butt, I don't care!
Okay, maybe not quite. Probably he's more like Bishop from Aliens in that scene.
Here you go. I'm gonna just shove you. Ready?
You're shoving me?
2.
You get the idea. The biggest Die Hard homage comes during Hopper's confrontation with Grigori.
Because you're a policeman. Policemen have rules.
Remember where you've heard that line before?
Because you're a policeman, there are rules for policemen.
Moving on. Robin quotes sneakers while decoding the mall's blueprints.
It's fascinating what $50 can get you at the county recorder's office.
Fascinating what $20 will get you at the county recorder's office.
And then the gang takes a wild ride in a super fast elevator that's straight out of Spies Like Us. I think that covers Season 3. It shot past the first 2 in popularity, becoming Netflix's most watched show at the time, though many have since surpassed it. Critics praised the season's energy but noted its lighter tone and more comedic characters, and they're right. Maybe it's because, having drawn from body horror, the Duffers had to balance things out to keep the story from turning into pure nightmare fuel. So they added humor and heart, despite the tragic finale and major character deaths. Even as the fate of the world hangs in the balance, Dustin still has to sing the theme from another 80s fantasy classic, The Never-Ending Story. For most fans, though, one question overshadowed everything. What happened to Hopper? It looked like he died, but that glimpse of a Russian prison couldn't be there for nothing.
Не американцы.
The American. You heard it too, right? Fans would wait 3 long years for answers, delayed by COVID and the Duffers' decision to take their time instead of releasing a new season every year. More build-up, more hype. In 2022, Stranger Things finally returned with Season 4, and a new wave of horror influences. Imagine Freddy Krueger with the mind of Pinhead from Hellraiser, battling Carrie and the heroes from Cheech and Chong. Let's get into it! If we're picking the single biggest influence on Season 4, it has to be A Nightmare on Elm Street. No contest. The kids of Hawkins now face a true dark sorcerer who invades his victims' minds with waking hallucinations, almost like Freddy Krueger stalking teens in their dreams. On the show's internal clock, 8 months have passed since last season, July 85 to March 86. Between seasons 2 and 3, the gap was about the same, from Halloween 84 to the 4th of July 85. Which means the jump from this look for the characters to this one is under a year and a half. Gotta love Hawkins and its growth spurts. That's the risk of making a long-running series with child leads. Anyway, our heroes are now up against Vecna.
/ Henry.
/ Warren.
Yep, that name comes straight out of Dungeons & Dragons. In Greyhawk's lore, he's an evil wizard. Small snag. Vecna wasn't fully codified until 1990, 4 years after the show's timeline. Before that, the name only popped up as flavor text on magic items. So it's a continuity stretch, unless Eddie Munson, played by Joseph Quinn, is such a creative DM that he reverse-engineered the villain from scraps, which honestly tracks. Eddie runs the Hellfire Club, a loud name for a bunch of die-hard D&D kids. Hellfire Club has been used for old British secret societies, a mutant Cable and X-Men, even a satanic rock band. But the most likely reason Eddie chose it is simple. He loves to provoke, and it fits the era. In the 80s, D&D was a favorite media punching bag, accused of all kinds of devil worship, and Season 4 leans right into that panic. Vecna invades minds, drags people into guilt-fueled nightmare spaces. Very Freddy Krueger. We first see his power in cheerleader Chrissy's death, a near remake of Tina's death in the original Elm Street. The girl levitates to the ceiling while the boy nearby, Rod there, Eddie here, can only panic and watch. Both guys bolt, knowing suspicion will land on them. To underline the homage, the show cast Freddy Krueger, Robert Englund himself, as Victor Creel, a man suspected of slaughtering his family. And when our team visits Creel, the staging riffs on The Silence of the Lambs. Clarice meets Lecter in the last cell. Same final cell energy here. Vecna mirrors Freddy, but without Freddy's twisted one-liners. His icy, ritualistic menace feels closer to another horror icon, Pinhead from Hellraiser.
Don't cry, Chrissy. Oh, no tears, please.
Like Vecna, Pinhead lives in a hell-adjacent dimension and invites the guilty to suffer. And Pinhead's Cenobites arrive with a heavy bell toll, the same ominous clock strike that heralds Vecna. The Upside Down itself reads like a labyrinth Pinhead would love, and Vecna's fixation on guilt echoes Event Horizon, where a hellish realm preys on past sins.
It shows you things, horrible things.
What does?
The dark inside me.
Okay, villain mapped. On to fresh sources. Beyond Spielberg and King, the 80s also belong to stoner comedy legends Cheech and Chong. Their haze hangs over Jonathan and his new bestie Argyle, a pizza delivery goofball. Yes, Argyle. Same name as John McClane's limo driver in Die Hard. We've seen Die Hard nods before, so it counts. That Cheech and Chong vibe shadows Jonathan's entire arc.
Blip, 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 blip. Blip, 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 blip.
Their fandom even helps the gang idea dealer named Reefer Rick.
Cheech and Chong's next movie. Cheech and Chong's Nice Dreams. Cheech and Chong's Up in Smoke.
Bingo.
And check the list. Rick Sanchez shows up. I'm 90% sure that mad scientist is behind Hawkins somehow. Season 4 also ushers in the home computer era, riffing hard on war games. In that movie, young Matthew Broderick hacks a defense supercomputer and nearly kicks off World War III. He also uses his hacking skills to change a grade in the school's digital record system. Susie, Dustin's long-distance genius, plays the same role here.
I will repent later.
When Will name drops war games and the gang tries dialing into a machine, you even hear the film's main theme.
War games? What?
I don't know if Nina's a computer like Joshua or Owen's lab, but unknown to your age, man, he gave us access to it for a reason.
The audio homages are non-stop. Sometimes it's songs. Episode 1 closes with the theme from Tales from the Dark Side, a very 80s pull. Sometimes it's direct line quotes.
Hold on to your butts.
Hold on to your butts, bro chachos.
Or, of course, a couple of mandatory Star Wars references.
Never tell me the odds.
Never tell me the odds. Very bad feeling about this.
I got a bad feeling about this.
And yes, the show keeps tipping its cap to aliens. The military briefings sound awfully like Hicks's unit getting orders.
Hicks, take the upper level.
Hicks, take the upper level.
When Dr. Owens returns, his entrance mirrors close encounters, mysterious lights that turn out to be government choppers. One more audio wink, and we'll move on. Recognize this line? Correct. Gandalf.
No matter what comes through that gate, you will stand your ground.
As usual, Season 4 splits into parallel tracks. Choices track? Infiltrate a secret Soviet prison on Kamchatka. No kidding. If you'd told me after Season 1 that in Season 4 our heroes would storm a USSR black site and fight a Demogorgon with a flamethrower, I'd have laughed. Yet here we are. That secret operation, funny and tense, tips a fedora to Indy again. Disguise and sneak is an Indiana Jones staple, even if Indy doesn't always nail the exit.
And if you are a Scottish lord, then
I am Mickey Mouse.
How dare he?
It's no accident a recent Machine Games project made disguises a core mechanic. There's also a curious echo to Black Widow. David Harbour escapes a Russian prison there too, as Red Guardian. Careful, David. Breaks out of gulags could become your brand. And yes, the prison armory contains Conan the Barbarian's Sumerian sword, the same design Arnie swung. Properly old-school hardware. We also learn Hopper served in Vietnam. You can't mention that without hearing Colonel Kurtz.
Horror.
The horror. Back to Stephen King. Season 4's clearest King homage is Carrie. 11 has always had Carrie DNA. Telekinesis, shaky social skills, and a domineering father figure Hopper trying to keep her home. But the roller rink humiliation is pure Carrie. Swap pig's blood for a milkshake. Lucky for the bullies, Elle doesn't have her powers right then. One broken nose would have turned into a slaughter, and the parallels would have gone from nod to remake. Max's nightmare at an empty school dance nods the same way. Like a telepath just wrecked the prom. And there's more King. Bursting balloons full of blood instantly recalls the library scene from the 1990 It miniseries, though Stranger Things plays it meaner. Haven't mentioned Spielberg in a bit. Let's fix that. The Byers clan plus Elle moved to a new street with the same name as Elliot's in E.T. They're even in the same state now, California. Several beats poured over from the Goonies.
I bet if we hit these suckers in the right combo, we might just open a door to a secret lair.
That's exactly the kind of challenge the kids in the movie faced while exploring those pirate tunnels. A sabotaged bike getaway via slashed tires? Also Goonies. When the kids haul friends out of the Upside Down with a rope made of bedsheets, that's poltergeist all day. The family yanked their daughter back from the spectral realm the same way. We've checked those boxes. Now to Jaws. The Duffers never skip their favorite film. Every season gets a chomp. Vecna's first victim is named Chrissy, the very name of the first shark kill in Jaws. Watch her attack. Now watch Steve in the same beat. Yeah, you can see the inspiration. And Star Wars? Beyond the quips, Season 4 borrows structure. Papa serves as a stern Yoda who refuses to let Elle rush off to Cloud City to save her friends. You're not ready energy.
We're not prepared for this fight, 11. And neither are you.
The biggest Star Wars lift is the finale's shape. Return of the Jedi orchestrates a perfect tension triangle. Han and Leia on Endor, the Rebel fleet in space, Luke versus Vader and the Emperor on the Death Star. Each thread's success is essential to the others. textbook cross-cut suspense. Stranger Things turns that triangle into a pentagon. Hopper and Joyce on Kamchatka. Elle in a pizza shop's sensory deprivation fridge. Lucas and Max in the Creel house. Dustin with Eddie shredding Metallica's master of puppets to pull the bat swarm. And the rest of the crew trying to torch Vecna directly. It's airtight, high-pressure suspense. And MVP, Murray, the conspiracy podcaster who went from bit player in Season 2 to indispensable here. His flamethrower run flips the battle's momentum, and his surprisingly legit karate doesn't hurt.
I've only sparred with the other students.
How old?
It doesn't go younger than 13.
After The Karate Kid, America caught a martial arts bug. Murray clearly did too. Vecna's death nods another classic, Halloween. Michael Myers is shot, falls out a window, and then vanishes. Vecna's body does the same. There's also a Star Wars-coded sequence when federal goons storm Brenner's lab. It's practically Vader and stormtroopers boarding the Tantive 4, reminding you who the Empire really is in this story. For a non-80s influence, we've also got Inception. When Elle dives deep into Billy's mind, she ends up on a lonely beach. That's Nolan territory. In Season 4, it's even more explicit. Elle goes layer by layer into Max's mind to square off with Vecna.
A memory within a memory?
For the endgame, the kids suit up in outfits that look a lot like the teen partisans of Red Dawn. And Season 4's opening nods a beloved 80s game, Paperboy, with its sleepy suburb paper route, a perfect time capsule. And now, Kate Bush. There's no secret meta-reference hidden in Running Up That Hill itself. It's just the clearest case of Stranger Things reshaping pop taste in real time. Back in the 80s, the song did fine, but it didn't top charts. Decades later, thanks to one unforgettable needle drop, it hit #1 around the world. Stranger Things began as a love letter to 70s and 80s culture and ended up becoming a source of nostalgia in its own right. Elsewhere, nostalgia bait has already rolled forward into the 90s and 2000s. There's a rough 30-year rule, sometimes trimmed to 20, for when pop culture turns nostalgic. But nearly 10 years after Season 1, Stranger Things doesn't care about the rulebook. Built like Dr. Frankenstein's creation from stitched-together classics, it somehow came alive not as a monster, but as a cohesive, original work. It borrows plots, heroes, and whole scenes, yet now carries a mythology that's unmistakably its own. So when people feel nostalgia today, it's not just because the cycle came around. It's because that's how it was on Stranger Things. And Kate Bush's comeback is Exhibit A. All right, time to head into the 5th, final season. 3 years passed after the 4th season, and this wasn't just a whim of the Duffer Brothers, who believed that an annual release would kill the hype around the series. In 2023, Hollywood was almost frozen for half a year. The actors and writers' strikes erupted, and along with them, work on all major studio projects was put on hold. The 5th season only reached release in 2025 and handled the fan warm-up perfectly. The internet filled with theories about the events of the new episodes, which characters would die, what the Upside Down really is, which characters would return in the finale. The creators eagerly fueled interest, leaving hints in trailers, interviews, and even character posters. Why weren't images of Max and Robin released right away? What does that mean? Could it be that they won't survive? Excellent work by the marketing team. Many viewers tried to figure out the main reference for the new season. Stranger Things has always had a kind of central homage line that the main storyline is built around. E.T., Aliens, The Thing, along with a whole bunch of body horrors, A Nightmare on Elm Street. And here the 5th season surprised many people, not by the absence of references, there are plenty of them, but by the approach to them. But first, let's talk about some old buddies. Films and franchises that already received their share of homages in previous seasons. Let's take The Goonies by Richard Donner as an example. 2 references stand out immediately. First, Eleven's training outfit is taken straight from Josh Brolin's character in the famous film. The bandana, the gray tank top, and the sweatshorts. Second, there's yet another journey through the tunnels beneath Hawkins. But this time it's not the fact of the underground adventure itself that matters, but the problems caused by careless handling of water pipes. The overall atmosphere of an underground resistance in a city seized by hostile military forces clearly refers to Red Dawn from 1984, where the characters also hid from the bad guys and carried out acts of sabotage. Robin and Steve's radio broadcast with coded messages would have fit perfectly into the world of Patrick Swayze and Charlie Sheen's characters from that iconic action movie. Only this time, there was no need to invent brutal Soviet soldiers hiding under a shopping mall, like in Season 3. Here, the Secret Services handle the role of the antagonist perfectly well on her own. Returning to Robin, she has clearly rewatched Back to the Future with a clear head and happily quotes Doc Brown.
Great Scott!
Even using the term flux capacitor to fool Joyce, who is less versed in pop culture. But the most obvious Back to the Future reference appears in this scene. Jonathan waits for the signal to reach 88 decibels before starting the trip.
Hold. Go!
As we know, the DeLorean had to reach 88 miles per hour to travel through time. Robin, also, as a true film lover, quotes young Frankenstein in this scene.
Let her up, Frankenstein.
It's Mouse Frankenstein!
I have one question, Dr. Frankenstein.
That's Frankenstein.
And of course, it's Robin who proposes the plan to rescue the children from the military base, based on the classic 1960s film The Great Escape, in which the characters led by Steve McQueen escape from a Nazi prison camp. Just like with the mention of war games in the 4th season, the retelling of the film's events is accompanied by music from the original soundtrack.
And personally, for us, I like Dick.
Now let's look at the teenagers driving around in a van hunting monsters. This is nothing less than a reference to Mystery Inc. from Scooby-Doo. At the same time, the device used to receive signals from the Upside Down is called Cerebro, just like Professor Xavier's machine from X-Men, which allows him to locate mutants anywhere on Earth. And if we look at Holly's abduction through the lens of this comic book lineage that has appeared more than once in Stranger Things, an interesting association emerges. Just as Eleven was compared to Jean Grey and her aggressive alter ego, the Dark Phoenix, Holly also has her own comic book analog. Colossus has a sister, Ileana, who was kidnapped by a demon, grew up practically in hell, and gained supernatural powers along with the name Magic, who you might remember portrayed by Anya Taylor-Joy in The New Mutants.
That thing will kill you!
He's right, it's magic.
So am I.
In Holly's case, we also have an abduction, an evil demon wanting to unleash hell on Earth. Only the superpowers are missing. And what's especially curious is that in the X-Men event titled Inferno, the demon abducted 13 children in order to open a portal from hell to Earth. This is literally Vecna. This isn't the last X-Men reference, but for now, let's stay within the realm of 1980s Easter eggs. Let's talk about Murray. He infiltrates the cordoned-off Hawkins under a fake name.
Austin Millbarge, ID 45289er.
How easy is it to fool a non-cinephile with pop culture references? That's the name of Dan Aykroyd's character in the famous comedy Spies Like Us.
Austin Millbarge.
Using hit names from a movie as cover is quite risky, but for Murray, after breaking into a Soviet prison, getting into Hawkins is a piece of cake. Now let's carefully listen to the gunfire sound used in Stranger Things. And now, compare it to Aliens by James Cameron. The Duffer Brothers' love for this franchise never fades. The children trapped in Vecna's cocoons strongly resemble the victims of xenomorphs before the chestbusters emerge. And once again, this scene refers not only to Cameron's classic, but also to later films. We'll get to those in a few minutes. Will gains the ability to observe events through the eyes of the Demogorgons. A similar ability was possessed by the main character of An American Werewolf in London by John Landis, seeing the world through the monster's eyes. And since we've entered horror territory, it's time to greet a few more old friends. Just like in the first season, the characters prepare traps for the Demogorgon. On the surface, this is a clear reference to Home Alone and the sadist Kevin McAllister. But in fact, it's a return to A Nightmare on Elm Street. An attempt to drag the monster into the real world and defeat it there using improvised devices. I already mentioned that the Wheeler family strongly resembles the characters from Poltergeist by Tobe Hooper. Only back then it was Will who disappeared, not Holly, who would seem like the more obvious reference. In the classic horror film, it was the youngest girl who ended up in the parallel world. Now, with a slightly altered title of the very first episode, originally The Vanishing of Will Byers, we get the vanishing of Holly Wheeler. And just like her predecessor from Poltergeist, she desperately tries to cling to the bed frame, but fails. And since we've moved on to Holly, her storyline contains a huge number of references to Alice in Wonderland. The little dreamer meets a strange creature using a pocket watch. Yes, Henry acts as the White Rabbit here. Then she finds herself in Wonderland at a mad tea party and even changes into the iconic blue dress. To remove any doubt, the frame includes a poster for Disney's Alice in Wonderland from 1951. Holly's cloak, though a different color, also resembles Little Red Riding Hood's outfit. While Vecna transforms into the Big Bad Wolf, hiding his true intentions behind a neat costume, glasses, and a hat. In general, the utopian idol Vecna places his victims in is saturated with fairy tale imagery. To Henry's image, we can also add the Pied Piper of Hamelin, who led children out of the city with the help of a magical flute. But one of the most frequently referenced works turns out to be A Wrinkle in Time. And interestingly, not the movie, the original novel. Probably because there still isn't a universally loved film adaptation of the book. Let's politely ignore the 2018 version with Chris Pine and Oprah and focus instead on visuals from the 2003 TV adaptation. Especially since when A Wrinkle in Time is mentioned in the second episode, the soundtrack that plays comes specifically from that version. Just like the novel's protagonist, Holly must escape from the planet Camazotz and save her loved ones. Vecna even takes the name Mr. Whatsit from one of the book's characters, though in the novel it was Mrs. Whatsit. Beyond A Wrinkle in Time, this storyline also strongly echoes the 1980s classic Labyrinth with Jennifer Connelly. A sibling is taken captive by a seductive, otherworldly ruler. In that case, David Bowie's Goblin King Jareth. And the hero must escape a world that looks beautiful on the surface, but is deadly underneath. I wouldn't have complained if Henry broke into a Bowie-style musical number to really seal the reference, but even without that, the parallel is clear.
What kind of magic spell to use?
Labyrinth was directed by Jim Henson, the creator of The Muppets, who also made The Dark Crystal. And that's where the visual design of Vecna's palace in the Abyss clearly comes from. The resemblance is impossible to miss. Returning to Vecna's illusory paradise, there's even a subtle nod to the Lord of the Rings. A new character, Derek, overhears a crucial conversation, but Max notices him and pulls him into the dangerous mission.
What are you doing here, dipshit?
I'm not dipshit Derek anymore. I'm delightful Derek.
Later, Mr. Clark, now fully aware of the Upside Down, openly references his love for Tolkien in this line.
Melon.
That directly recalls the opening of the Mines of Moria.
Melon.
And speaking of references, the Duffer Brothers once again lean into one of their favorite tools, casting. This time, the effect is stronger than ever. Neither Paul Reiser nor Sean Astin have quite the same 80s genre weight as Linda Hamilton. Yes, Sarah Connor herself enters Stranger Things, playing the new antagonist from the government side, Dr. K. With Brenner gone, that power vacuum wasn't going to stay empty for long.
Everything that has happened here is because of that girl.
Another major creative force also joined the show. Several episodes were directed by Frank Darabont, the filmmaker behind The Shawshank Redemption, still ranked by audiences of IMDb as the greatest film ever made. Darabont hadn't directed anything for over a decade, largely due to a very public legal battle with AMC after being fired following the hugely successful first season of The Walking Dead. That controversy deserves its own video, but his influence shows up directly in the season itself. In one scene, Holly and her friend are watching A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, the installment with Patricia Arquette and the teenagers who fight Freddy inside a psychiatric hospital. And yes, that screenplay was written by Frank Darabont. He also directed The Mist, a film about a supernatural fog unleashed by a government experiment and filled with horrifying creatures. While earlier seasons of Stranger Things also flirted with similar imagery, Season 5 brings the comparison closer than ever. The military enters the Upside Down and battles demogorgons lurking in the darkness. And if The Mist feels a little too modern for the Duffers' usually 80s obsession, you're absolutely right. Because in Season 5, Stranger Things quietly expands its reference pool beyond the 1980s, into the 1990s, and even the 21st century. Let's take a look at one of the coolest scenes of the season, Vecna's arrival in his new, more threatening design. According to the Duffer Brothers themselves, the way he massacres the soldiers is a direct reference to Darth Vader's hallway scene in Rogue One, one of the most iconic moments in modern Star Wars. And that's not the only influence here. Vecna casually pulling the pins out of grenades is straight up Magneto from the X-Men movies. I told you we'd be coming back to the X-Men. And the moment where Henry raises the defeated Demogorgons instantly brings to mind Game of Thrones. Remember the famous Hard Home episode? The Night King shows up and resurrects the White Walkers. Same energy, same visual language. And while we're at it, let's add a bit more Star Wars. Beyond the obvious jokes about Return of the Jedi, 11's early training scenes clearly echo the franchise. You could argue it's Luke on Dagobah. Although, honestly, it looks a lot like Rey in, Episode 9. But since that movie definitely doesn't exist, let's settle on Luke. Among the non-80s references, The Matrix stands out the most. Vecna hooks the kidnapped kids into a complex biomechanical system and places their minds into a peaceful artificial illusion. So it's not just aliens with the cocoons, it's humans as batteries, straight out of The Matrix. When Holly wakes up, she's basically Neo seeing the real world for the first time. During Max's escape with her new friend, they observe memories through rows of bookshelves. Very Interstellar, very Matthew McConaughey in the Tesseract. Jonathan and Nancy, meanwhile, are practically cosplaying Titanic. You know, if Jack had actually managed to fit on that piece of wood.
Nancy Wheeler, will you not marry me?
And that raises an interesting question. Why are there suddenly so many references to newer movies? Did the Duffers worry that pure 80s nostalgia might finally wear out and decided to shift toward the 90s and early 2000s? Not quite. What's really happening is that over the past 10 years, Stranger Things has evolved beyond being a nostalgia-driven project and has become something fully independent. Metaphorically speaking, the show used to function like the Upside Down, a bridge between our world and the pop culture universe of the 1980s, guiding modern viewers into the past. But now Vecna has merged those realities, creating a new, self-contained world, one built from elements of old pop culture, newer influences, and most importantly, one that stands on its own. That's why I've been leading up to the main reference of Season 5. When you look at the season as a whole, all these scattered homages come together into a single idea. Stranger Things is now referencing Stranger Things. It doesn't really matter how often Star Wars or Dungeons & Dragons come up, or how Lucas feels about New Coke. What matters are the characters, their choices, their emotions, their shared history. Jonathan and Will building Castle Byers, listening to The Clash together. Eleven and Hop are finally spending real screen time side by side. The references dissolve into character-driven moments. When Robin quotes Back to the Future, you can feel that you actually watched her discover that movie for the first time.
What's happening? I have no idea.
It's not just a random quote shoved into dialogue. It's character storytelling. For the first time, the show openly and confidently references itself. Even the brief flashback to Henry's childhood is a nod to the first Shadow, the Broadway play that's officially canon. Oh yeah, Stranger Things has a stage play. It looks incredible. And it's directed by Stephen Daldry, a 3-time Oscar nominee behind Billy Elliot, The Hours, and The Reader. We're getting very close to the point where Stranger Things becomes so influential that movies and shows start referencing it instead. Actually, scratch that. That's already happening, and it's only going to grow from here. Because Stranger Things pulled off something that proved impossible for so many other popular franchises. It has a genuinely good ending. And yes, it also delivered the lowest rated episode in the show's entire run. The debate over the finale is clearly not going away anytime soon. But honestly, the ending isn't bad.
Wait. Hold on. That's it. Comfort and happiness?
Season 5 is far from perfect, yet it delivers a functional, emotionally coherent, and, perhaps the most frustratingly for some, very predictable conclusion to a long-running story. The creators came dangerously close to falling into the Game of Thrones trap, trying to wrap up every storyline in a limited number of episodes while fan expectations were at an all-time high. As a result, some characters spend too much time verbally processing their feelings just to arrive at obvious conclusions, while others barely get enough screen time at all. Meanwhile, certain storylines that clearly mattered more to the writers than to the audience were elevated into major climactic moments in the second half of the season. That's why Episode 7 took so much backlash, not because of Will's emotional confession itself, but because of how insignificant that moment feels within the larger framework of a story where reality itself is on the brink of collapse. For Will, it's life-changing, sure, but there's literally an apocalypse happening. Still, despite several questionable narrative choices, the finale delivers exactly what it's supposed to. A farewell to childhood and to the massive pop culture phenomenon that Stranger Things became. As much as we might want to stay in Hawkins forever, time moves on. Kids grow up, and stories have to end. The show chose an expected but emotionally resonant ending. Fans spent years theorizing about who would die in the finale, and in a sense, everyone did. Not physically, but symbolically. Every character leaves childhood behind along with their old lives. What comes next is something entirely new. New goals, new challenges, new identities. These are no longer kids. They're people stepping into adulthood and passing childhood on to the next generation. Is it simple? Absolutely. Is it beautiful? Without question. There's even a quietly funny meta touch in Hopper wanting to move to Montauk, the town that inspired the original concept of Stranger Things. You could practically launch a spin-off under the show's original working title. Now Montauk has finally earned its right to exist.
I had a call from my buddy in the New York days. Montauk's looking for a new chief of police.
Once again, the series ends by referencing itself rather than outside pop culture. It's hard not to catch the vibes of Morpheus's rescue from the Matrix in the helicopter scene, or see shades of Frodo from the Lord of the Rings in the way Will mentally connects to the ultimate evil. But those references are minor. What really matters is that Hopper and Joyce finally got to have dinner at Enzo's. Stranger Things walked a razor's edge and still managed to deliver a warm, earned finale worthy of a show that defined an era. The real misstep was putting so much weight on Episode 7, a gamble that almost cost the series a portion of its audience. And judging by the wave of one-star IMDb ratings for the final episode, not everyone forgave it. Still, Stranger Things is over, and with it, the wave of 80s nostalgia it helped revive. Or maybe extend, because from now on, future references won't feel like homages to E.T. anymore. They'll feel like homages to Stranger Things itself. Just like E.T. didn't invent the trope of a child befriending a fantastical creature, but eventually replaced earlier examples in our collective memory. This show may do the same, while also serving as a gateway to the 80s for a new generation that once dismissed the era's aesthetics as outdated and artificial. It's no coincidence the finale is set in 1989. The 80s are over. Childhood is over. One era gives way to another. And the anger some fans feel now is just one stage of letting go.
Fucked with the wrong family.
Let me know in the comments how you felt about the ending of one of the biggest TV shows of the last decade. Like and subscribe, it really helps the channel. And check out the next video, or dive into the playlist with deep dives into iconic films and franchises. Thanks for watching. This is 11 Take.